Welcome back, Defenders. Today we're going to start with the craziest story. South Korea's martial law, thankfully, was overturned, as President Yoon now faces an impeachment push. The impeachment vote will be occurring on December 7th at 7 p.m. And President Yoon, he's going to go to jail. This was a military coup, and initially, I wanted to believe he had evidence. He made serious accusations that opposition politicians were in collaboration with the North Koreans. And if you make an accusation like that, you should really have some evidence. But nope, this was just a routine military coup by an unpopular president. President Yoon's approval rating was 19%, meaning that 4 out of 5 South Koreans were unhappy with his job performance. Additionally, President Yoon's wife is facing corruption charges, as well as members of his cabinet. Members of his cabinet were facing impeachment. In South Korea, their equivalent of a midterm election, the opposition party gained a bunch of seats, and President Yoon couldn't pass anything he wanted to pass. South Korea can't even pass their own budget. So President Yoon was frustrated with the political process in a democracy and decided to just end that democracy and create a new military dictatorship. He shopped around for a military commander willing to follow his orders, and then he called in Black Hawk helicopters to fly special forces to the assembly building to arrest the opposition. And this just wasn't going to work because South Korea is a democracy. And these special forces, these soldiers that were at the National Assembly building, they weren't willing to beat anyone, they weren't willing to kill anyone. Yes, they were told to arrest some people, but without the use of violent force, this was never going to work. This military coup failed within 6 hours. So what is President Yoon's political party saying to defend him? Pro-Yoon legislators argued in the party meeting that the president declared martial law because he was lonely and needed a friend to talk to. Wow. So members of Yoon's government are resigning en masse out of protest for what he did. Obviously, Yoon didn't consult these people. And South Korea's defense minister apologized to the public and also resigned. There's no defense. There's no defense for what President Yoon did, and he's going to go to jail. He's going to go to jail for a long time. So as a send-off to this dictator wannabe, I want to share this clip of President Yoon in 2023 at the White House singing his favorite karaoke, or in South Korea they call it noraebang, singing his favorite noraebang song, American Pie.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. And now I knew if I had not changed, that I can make those people dance and maybe they'd be happy for a while. A February made me shiver with the paper I deliver. Bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I tried when I read about his widow bride. Something touched me deep inside the day the music died.
The music has definitely died for President Yoon. This guy has just destroyed everything that he did his entire life. Let's check in on Syria. Moscow says that Russia, Iran, and Turkey are in close contact over the Syrian conflict, and the rebels continue making progress. They've captured the city of Hama. Assad's forces have retreated from Hama back to the next defensible position. This is Homs. The rebels are going to consolidate what they have in Aleppo. They're going to consolidate Hama now. And I think, yeah, their goal is to continue pushing against Assad's forces. All they have to do is take Homs, and then Damascus is cut off from Russian resupply along the Mediterranean coast. This is crazy. This is pretty spectacular. Things are moving very fast, but I imagine that Iran is going to have something to say about this. Iran or Iraq's military might get directly involved, but they'll have to cross the desert to do this, and it's a question. It's a calculation. Do they continue propping up Assad when he's obviously weak and doesn't have any kind of support from the majority of his population? Or do we just let the rebels win and then deal with what's next? Try to create a new government from all of this chaos. And I'm sure Turkey is going to have a large say in what happens to Syria going forward if they can kick the Russians out. That's their goal. For fun, here's a video of the rebels capturing another one of Assad's palaces. This is the palace in Hama.
الله أكبر والعزة لله مبنى محافظة حماة الذي حررها إخوانكم المجاهدين في إدارة العمليات العسكرية. هم إخوانكم المجاهدين داخل مبنى المحافظة في محافظة حماة. الله أكبر. الحمد لله الذي من علينا هذا الفتح. الله أكبر. قادمون يا دمشق. قادمون بإذن الله تعالى. بإذن الله تعالى. من قصر محافظة حماة ولله الحمد والمنة. الله أكبر. الله أكبر والعزة لله. إذن
The world's going crazy, guys. I'm not saying I like these rebels or these rebels are good guys, but sometimes the enemy of my enemy I can tolerate for the moment. As long as they're causing pain to the Russians, I think it's a good thing for Ukraine. What are the Russians up to? And this is a dumb idea. Russian troops assemble 300 boats on islands near Kherson, trying to gain a foothold on the other side of the river. Because Putin is demanding the administrative borders of Kherson before the war stops, there's no bridges. The dam was blown. The bridges are down. The only way for Russians to get across the river is by small boats. And it's December. The water is freezing, and Russian generals are ordering their troops into boats to try and get a bridgehead or a foothold on the other side of the river prior to Trump's forced negotiations. This sounds like a disaster. This sounds miserable. It's currently December 5th. And let me just share with you what it looks like on the ground for the average Russian soldier sleeping outside or sleeping in a trench.
Покажите хоть лица свои. Русский? О. Чего вам надо, ребята? Хватит спать, утро наступило, блядь. Пиздец, вы еще выжили, живем, блядь. Ебать в рот, нахуй. Так вот и живем, блядь. В окопы себе копаем и живем на улице. В холоде, ни печки, ни хуя, ничего нету, нахуй.
No stove, no fire, no way to warm up. I've gone camping, and I've slept outside when there's snow on the ground, and it doesn't feel good trying to sleep when it's sub-zero. Even if you have the best sleeping bag in the world, you're going to wake up and your bones are going to hurt the next day. And these guys have been doing this for years, and they've got a brutal 3 months ahead of them. Here's another video taken by a Russian soldier showing their trench network flooded. And yeah, what do you do about this?
Да, наводнение. Бывает и такое. С трассы идет сюда. Там был блинчик. Охрененный блинчик был. Ну и все тогда. Все затопило. Он баклажки тоже валяется. А вот это вот товарищ, где жил он, все затопило. Ну это все.
Nowhere to hide for these guys. Here's another Russian soldier filming a video. This time, I'm guessing this is for his wife or his girlfriend. Basically filming a video where he expects to die in the next day or so. Hello, Oksana. It's Andre. This is what I'm like right now. If you're watching this video, I'm not here anymore. I don't know what's going to happen next, whether I'll be alive or not. God willing, I'll get in touch today and send you this video. You can cry. You think it's a sweet place here? No. Every day there's bombings. Bullets flying. I have already smelled the gunpowder. It's very scary. I regret the day I signed that effing contract. August 21st. I remember it. And September 15th, 2024. I have these dates in my mind. Something tells me this man isn't alive anymore. Here's a headline. Russia deploys general to address food complaints from North Korean troops in the Kursk region. This is a Russian general being deployed to the Kursk region to address the concerns of the North Korean troops not getting enough food to eat. It's so bad, rations and supplies, that the North Koreans are complaining about not getting enough food to eat. Wow. All right, here's an update on the political situation. Yermak-led delegation meets with Trump's team in Washington. This is a delegation including Defense Minister Umerov and the Economy Minister, and they met with U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Trump's Special Envoy Keith Kellogg. This is good news. We want members of Ukraine's government meeting with and talking to Trump's transition team and their incoming national security team. Mike Waltz, he's a credible guy who's taken this situation serious, and General Keith Kellogg understands the threat from Russia and is sympathetic towards Ukraine. These are the people we want members of Ukraine's government talking to in the incoming Trump administration. We also need to apply pressure on MAGA, have people in the NATO alliance meeting with and talking to Trump as much as possible. NATO chief warns Trump forcing Ukraine into a peace deal could embolden China, Iran, and North Korea. If Russia is allowed to succeed in this war, if they're allowed to declare victory and seize militarily these 4 oblasts and be allowed to keep them, then this will trigger more wars in the future. Russia's definitely not done. China has ambitions. North Korea is openly hostile to South Korea and Japan. And then you have Iran, which is making their moves currently. I do think Iran's military might become directly involved in Syria if these rebels keep making progress on the ground. Here's an important headline. No new Ukraine funding until Trump returns in office. This is according to Speaker Johnson. President Biden, bless him, said he wanted to schedule a vote for another $26 billion in military aid prior to him leaving office. And because the Republicans control the House of Representatives, Speaker Johnson is saying, no, this is not going to happen. So when you get these statements in U.S. political speak, it's important to kind of parse how they say things, because tone, body language, intonation, like everything matters in U.S. politics when speaking. So watch the clip of what Speaker Johnson says, and how he says it actually is important.
Not planning to do that. There are developments by the hour in Ukraine. I think, as we predicted, and as I said to all of you, weeks before the election, if Donald Trump is elected, it will change the dynamic of the Russian war on Ukraine.
It will change the dynamic of Russia's war on Ukraine. Okay, that's good language. That's appropriate language. I like Speaker Johnson's phrasing it such that way.
And we're seeing that happen. So it is not the place of Joe Biden to make that decision now. We have a newly elected president, and we're going to wait and take the new commander-in-chief's direction on all of that. So I don't expect...
We're going to wait and take the new commander-in-chief's direction on all of that. Speaker Johnson is not saying no. He's not shooting down the idea of future military aid to Ukraine. So the fact that Speaker Johnson is on the same page as, for example, General Keith Kellogg, then this is a serious potential. It's an option. They are entertaining this. If they weren't entertaining it, they would just shoot it down flatly and use the strongest language possible that we're done. We're never providing military support for Ukraine ever again. But you can just tell from Speaker Johnson's tone and body language that the opportunity, the possibility of continuing military aid to Ukraine is still there. Trump is keeping this as an option, or at least General Kellogg and people like future National Security Advisor Mike Waltz are taking this serious, and they are keeping all options on the table. The United States pledges to deliver $61 billion in aid to Ukraine before Biden's term expires on January 20th. This was Secretary Blinken once again affirming that the Department of Defense is doing everything they can right now, over the next 50 days, to send as much military aid and support as possible before Trump halts it. And Trump might do this, for negotiations, but then he could resume it. So General Keith Kellogg, I think I played this clip in my last video. He did appear on Fox News, and he said, there's no conflict here. In a way, it's pretty good for the president-elect because it gives him leverage. So the fact that Biden wants to rush deliver as much as possible and not leave any funds left over for Trump, Trump doesn't have a problem with this. He's not complaining about it. It's not a big deal. Give Ukraine everything we can today. Strengthen their position going into negotiations in late January. And here's the million-dollar question. According to the Atlantic Council, Putin is obsessed with Ukraine's destruction and isn't interested in a peace deal, according to experts. Here's the duality. Does Putin want to freeze the conflict, consolidate his gains, rearm, and then start the war again in 2, 3, or 4 years? It's a possibility. Or does Putin want to tell Trump, screw off, I'm going to continue destroying these cities until I take everything I promised I would take? And I think at the moment, Putin doesn't know exactly what he's going to do. There's positives and negatives to keeping the war going versus freezing the conflict, both for Ukraine and for Russia. And I genuinely think Putin is going to take whatever deal is best for him once he starts talking to and negotiating directly with President Trump. So it comes down to President Trump, and how will he react when Putin doesn't do what he wants him to do? We're going to find out together. Literally nobody knows what's going to happen. In the meantime, Putin relative reveals secret figure on missing soldiers. Anna Siviloeva, the reported daughter of Putin's cousin, said that the government had received 48,000 appeals from relatives to identify missing soldiers. This was a F-up that was caught on camera and then leaked to the internet. So this is Putin's cousin's daughter, and she's in charge of some kind of department that is identifying the bodies of missing or killed Russian soldiers. And here's what she accidentally said in a meeting. I have said that if we take the DNA of relatives for free, all the relatives who contacted us are put into the Ministry of Internal Affairs database. I have already said that this is about 48,000 people. The only point, colleagues, is that somebody heard what she said, giving a finite number, and then he jumped in to try to cover it up. The only point, colleagues, is that she mentioned a figure including of missing persons. I earnestly ask that these figures not appear anywhere. This is such sensitive information. And when we write documents, we should not make sure that these figures do not appear. Well, we'll see. This is a very sensitive issue. We need to avoid all of the sharp corners. Hilarious. So let's think about it. 48,000 Russian families have submitted their DNA to help find and identify lost loved ones, killed or lost Russian soldiers. 48,000. Now just think how many Russians don't have access to mail in a DNA kit, or they're just not interested in figuring it out. This is separate from all the bodies who have been identified. 48,000 DNA samples of missing or dead Russian soldiers that can't be identified. It's a lot. That's a lot, Russia. Good job. Explosions shake Russia's military bases. This was the Diaghilevo Air Base, Diaghilevo Air Base, and Novorossiysk port targeted. I apologize with these pronunciation, guys. It's just a lot of unusual words for me. I'm doing my best. But this airbase is southeast of Moscow, and it's about 458 kilometers. Ukraine struck it with their long-range drones, and every night, on to the next oil depot or airfield. Oh God. Tucker Carlson interviews Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov in Moscow. Tucker Carlson is struggling to remain relevant, and he loves Russia for some reason. He already did his interview of Putin, but let's try Foreign Minister Lavrov. I don't think this interview is going to get as many views, and not as many people on the internet is going to care. Foreign Minister Lavrov isn't the most interesting or charismatic person. Here's my prediction of what's going to happen. Why do you think this war is still going on? Well, Mordor was being threatened by Gondor expansion. We are just defending ourselves. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Denmark allocates 6 million euros to help Ukraine rebuild their energy infrastructure. Thank you so much to the people of Denmark. The Netherlands announces 22 million euros in aid for Ukraine's air defenses. Thank you so much to the Dutch people. Bulgaria supplies arms and ammunition to Ukraine in its 7th aid package being delivered. Thank you so much to the people of Bulgaria. Okay, a quick update on the Broe Christmas convoy. We, of course, went over the $1 million goal a couple days ago, but we're keeping it open. And I talked to the guys at the NAFO 69th Sniffing Brigade, and we're going to try and purchase some more trucks. For the birthday fundraiser, we did 30. For the 1,000 Days of War campaign, we did 30. And if we only do 30 for Christmas, then that's 90 for the year. Doesn't sound as good as 100. So if we can juice this to 1.2 million, then that's enough to get 40 trucks this time. 40 plus 30 plus 30 is 100 trucks for the year. Everybody loves nice round numbers, so that's what we're shooting for. 12,935 heroes have already donated. If you haven't kicked in $5 or $10, we can finish off this last 35,000 we're shooting for, and we can get those 100 trucks for the year. It's incredible. Thank you so much to everyone who has participated in this fundraiser. Thank you everyone who made it this far in the video, and anybody who likes, comments, shares, subscribes. You're part of this. Thank you so much for being part of this community. It means a lot. Final video I want to share comes from Georgia. And unfortunately for Georgia, the people have to take to the streets to hold their government accountable. The election they had last month was rigged by the Russians, and it wasn't free and fair. The Russian military right now is occupying about 20% of Georgia's territory. And this is what the Georgian protesters are up against. These police are being paid for and funded and equipped by the Russians. Tactics used to oppress protesters, for example, in Belarus. Lessons were learned, and this is what they're doing to intimidate and crush the pro-democracy movement in Georgia. And I want to share with you a video. His name, I guess, is Akko. And he's on the streets in Tbilisi, part of the protests, and I just want to share his video explaining what they're fighting for.
Hello friends, I've managed to get to more of a secure area where poison gas and water spray isn't bearing down upon us to tell you what the protests are all about. Basically, our government, our illegitimate government who faked the elections and stole the votes, they're no longer planning to join European Union, which is the will of Georgian people. 80% or more support the accession to European Union, and the government has denied us our will. So we're fighting against it, and we're fighting for our right to return to our European family. Georgia is one of the first and oldest European states, so we will fight to return to our family, and nothing can stop us. Omarjos.
I really like this guy's chainmail. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.